Hey guys, welcome back to an Unjuggle the Struggle with Friends episode. Today I am welcoming fellow podcast host, speaker, coach Loryane Michaels of the Bite Size Podcast on the show today. We are talking all things about what it actually looks like to step into purpose-aligned living and lessons learned and how to show up with this faith over fear based model. Let's go. I'm excited. We're bringing you this conversation fresh in the new year. Loryane, thank you for joining me today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Yes, let's do this thing. So first things first. Obviously, you are the podcast host of the Bite Size Podcast. I was on this podcast a month ago maybe, and we had so much fun. And I just love your tagline. It's like, hey, if you want to be a better human, like this is what you listen to. So tell us a little bit more about you, your story, the podcast, and then we'll go ahead and get into the conversation today.
Awesome. Well, again, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited for what the Holy Spirit's going to do here. My name's Loryane, and I am a wife, a stepmom, and a coach, a speaker, and a podcast host. I've got 20 years background in medicine, and I walked away from it all in 2020. That was like
Crazy.
the year that I think a lot of people had an awakening. And that was the time that I was just tired of beating my head against the wall. And I just started passionately pursuing my dream. And that's to just spread the good news and to help encourage other women to step into their calling and really lead a life of passion and purpose.
Oh, I
That's what I
love it.
do.
You and we've got the same heartbeat, girl. I absolutely can you get behind that mission 100%.
Yeah.
You talk about being in medicine and having kind of this wake up call of like, hey, I need something different. Can you share more about that?
Yeah, it was. So I thought it was the end all be all. Like I absolutely loved medicine. I still do. There's a place for it, I feel. I mean, I'm not saying my way is the right way, but I am really against Western medicine for the most part. And there's a place for it, absolutely, but they really have taken an approach of a pill for every ill, and I don't agree with that. I'm very much into functional medicine and getting to the root cause of everything. So I still practice that functional medicine, functional health, and nutrition. But what pushed me was medicine turned into something that I did not get into it for. I got into
Mm.
it for helping people. And I found myself towards the end of it all in this position of trying to get to the root of these things with people and encouraging them and um really asking them those questions, those thought-provoking questions that had nothing to do with medicine, why they were there
Yep.
or whatever, but really I was getting to know people and getting to know their heart and their passion and what they did for a living, but what they really liked to do, type of thing. And I found myself, when I was working in medicine, coaching
Yeah.
and really getting into, the personal development side of things and the different healing modalities and basically the things that I do and coach and teach now, I was doing then, but didn't really realize it. And then, like I said, 2020 was just, I was in the thick of it in California during COVID.
Yeah.
And that's when I realized that medicine is not what it used to be and no longer in alignment with who I am.
And then you quit.
Jump ship.
Yeah, you quit. You pivoted, you quit, which is, I
Yeah.
mean, everything that I constantly am talking about. Like when we
Yeah.
get to that point where we have to make a choice to quit the things that are no longer
Mhm.
serving us and quit the things that are no longer in alignment so that we can actually create space for the things that are in
Yeah.
alignment.
Yeah. And also, it wasn't just that it wasn't serving me, but it wasn't serving other
Mm.
people. How I was showing up in that role, what I was supposed to be doing, that was not serving people the way that God intended for me to be, right?
Mhm.
I was better suited serving in another capacity, and that's what I started to pursue.
And that's what you started to pursue. So how do you go from being in those shoes where really truly you're trying to you're trying to glitch the system, like the programming of, okay, wait a second, I've just put in all of this time, all of these years, all of this education, and and now I'm just going to go up and be a coach. Like, what
Mhm.
does that actually look like, feel like, for maybe even the person who's listening that is in the same boat?
Liberating. Liberating. First, I
Mm.
mean, I'm first and foremost, I really had to check my spirit and make sure that it was something that was the Holy Spirit telling me, not fleshly driven, right? So, a couple of checks that I run by is it God honoring? Does it go with what the word says or against? Because if it's not God honoring and it goes against what the word says, then it's not from God. That's definitely a fleshly desire. And when I
Mhm.
say a fleshly desire, that means a desire inside of Loryane.
Like our
Um,
egos or
right,
pride,
right, right.
or like really caring what other folks think about us, things like that.
Exactly.
Yep.
So is it in alignment? Is it God honoring? Is it in alignment with the word? And is it going to serve others and not serve myself?
Mhm.
And so those things, absolutely, I was able to answer yes. Also, is it uncomfortable? Because God
Mm.
calls us to be uncomfortable.
Yep.
And getting me out of medicine and in my own business, I was able to share my faith. I was able to encourage others, tell other people about Jesus. Can I do that in medicine? Sure. But I was getting in trouble for that. Like I was getting
Yeah.
I was, like, under the microscope, and that's really looked down upon, unfortunately. So it was a hard but easy decision, right? And it was
Yeah.
hard because I had a quote unquote stable job, a
Yeah.
good job. It paid great and I had insurance and I didn't have to worry about it. I just showed up and I made good money. Whereas now, if I'm going to pursue this dream and God-sized goal,
Yeah.
vision, that's going to require a lot of faith on my part, a lot of trust, a lot of stepping out and uncertainty.
Mhm.
Um, so to the listener who is thinking about it, it is scary and it is not easy, but God doesn't call us to easy.
Oh, I
And if
love
it's going
that.
to stretch me and grow me and help other people, I'm all in.
Why not? Why not?
Yeah.
Now, how long did you know that you needed to make this change? And I asked because, like, even with my own story, I knew for almost a year and a half in my gut, in all of my being, that I was supposed to jump out of the corporate box, that I was supposed to leave everything you just talked about, that quote unquote stable job, the finances. All I had to do was show up, like it was all good. And a year, and I look back and I'm like, a year and a half. And I talk to even clients today who are, they're like, well, I've had this dream for 5 years, 10 years, and they're
Oh.
still so scared to do it. How long did you have that whisper in your heart before it became a roar that you could no longer ignore?
Um, I would say about a year.
Okay.
I don't know when it got really I mean, I guess I would say about a year. So it was in July of 19. I was working at in medicine at UC Davis, and I had a convention because I was doing a business on the side,
Mm.
and I went to Georgia for a convention. And it was then that I saw these speakers. And granted, this business that I had on the side is nothing to do with what I do now. Not even close, not even in the realm of thing. It was I wouldn't even say a multi-level marketing. Well, kind of multi-level marketing. But anyways, it was then July of 2019. I'm at this convention and I see these speakers on stage, and God just dropped in my spirit, like, you're going to speak at the Georgia Dome, the Mercedes-Benz Georgia Dome. You're going to be up on that stage one day. And I'm like, yeah, right. I was like, that's how I knew it was God, because I was like, no.
The way we will laugh at God, like when he actually decides to drop a clear message, clear as day, like that, you know, everything from head to toe. Here's the message coming through, and you're like, nah, bro.
Wrong one.
Wrong.
Not me. You dropped that in the wrong one. I think you're supposed to drop that
Wrong
over
one.
there. I
Wrong
was like,
one.
what? No. I was like, I'm sorry. You got the wrong number.
You're looking around. You're like, that ain't for me. That ain't for
Yeah.
me.
100%.
But you knew that, because almost that you were having that nah, bro moment, that you're like, oh snap, that
Yeah.
might actually be for me.
Yeah. And then I started questioning everything, because I was like, I don't want to do this business. I don't want to sell this. I don't want to talk to people about this. And that's why I was like, God, I really don't think that you meant that. Like, I think you
Mhm.
have the wrong one. And so that happened in July of
Yeah,
19,
19.
and I was toying with it. I'm like, what does that mean? Why? Because I did like the thought of changing people's lives, and being in that, because every time I see it, like when I watch football games or there's something on TV or whatever, and I see that arena,
Yep.
I'm like, I'm gonna be there.
Yes, I
I'm
just
gonna
know
be
it.
on that
I'm gonna
stage.
be there.
So I know somehow he's gonna
Make it
put
happen.
it all together and it's gonna happen. I just don't know how, when, where, why. Like, I don't know how that, and that's not my job. I just have to take one day at a time and step in obedience. And so
Show up.
my first step of obedience was when I had that opportunity to leave medicine and
Mhm.
pursue this, I took it.
Yep.
Scared as all get out.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I want to go. I actually wrote down a couple things, because I'm just sitting here. I'm like, it's so crazy how we as humans, like the collective, like to think that we're all so different, but really, like the things that you're saying, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's part of my story too. So two things, like, just again, hey, there's something magical that's happening here. My aha moment, like, hey, message from my drop in of like, hey, you're supposed to do something different, also happened when I was going out of town, out of
Yeah.
my normal routine, to go to this conference. And
Yeah.
it was in that moment where he met me and was like, yeah, you're not supposed to be doing the things that you're doing. And so I'm just wondering, it's like, man, how crazy is it that our daily lives get so busy that we actually almost become numb
Mhm.
to just these constant signs that are trying to grab our attention, to
Mhm.
redirect us, or to have us actually step into purpose.
Yeah.
And so that was one of the things that I was like, man, okay, so you went to a conference and light bulb. I went to a conference, light bulb. And
Yeah.
then the other thing that stood out that I was like, yep, same, you're preaching, is the curiosity. So it was a
Mhm.
light bulb of curiosity. And
Yeah.
just the fact that you and I were both willing to start to entertain. And
Mhm.
that's all it was, because neither of us had, neither of us still, we're still like, I don't have the how figured out. I
Yeah.
still am trying, like, obediently showing up in surrender, in obedience, like, here I am, here I am. So
Yeah.
that piece isn't, I don't think I agree with you. Like, I agree with you that that's not for us to unpack, we're supposed to show up and we're supposed to continue to get curious. Like,
Yeah.
hey, what could this actually look like for me? And hey, why did this drop in?
Yeah.
Like, from where? Where is this coming from? Because it doesn't just come from nowhere. Like,
Yeah.
where? And then all of a sudden to start paying attention to things exactly like you said, how the conversations that you'd be having with patients and realizing that they were already going on such a deeper level, way beyond medicine.
Yeah.
And then taking and going, okay, wait, that impact, there's something here for me. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. And God doesn't it's not our job to figure out the how. All he wants is our yes.
Yes.
Is
Yeah.
all we need to do is show up with a yes, and he'll
Yeah.
do the rest.
He does the rest. Yep.
Yeah.
And I really appreciated too, like you just calling out. And I love this about all of your content, just the raw authenticity in it. It's like calling out that, hey, I was scared. I was scared. I didn't know. I had a lot more questions than answers.
Yeah.
I was fearful. And the other theme, like that comes out in a lot of your stuff, is this idea of fear, or is this idea of faith over fear.
Yeah.
How do you get to a place where, even though the fear is so loud, fear of
Mm.
uncertainty, fear of like lack, fear with finances, like fear of the unknown, fear of how it actually is all going to come together, right? All of it, even saying all of it, like starts to lump up in my throat.
Yeah.
How do you get to a point where you can live like day in and day out with this true, like this faith over fear?
Um, exactly that. My faith. I have to lean into my faith. Um, 2 Timothy 1:7. God
Mm,
doesn't give us a spirit of fear. He gives us a spirit of power and love and self-discipline. And so I have to remember that. I have to remember that as soon as fear drops into my spirit, I know I can rebuke that. I know I can say
mhm.
that's not from God.
Yeah.
And so that alone gives me the strength and the encouragement to press into it,
Yeah.
because the devil is going to keep me away from what God is calling me to. So
Mhm.
what's the easiest thing he could do is scare me, right?
Totally.
I had 20 years medicine. I knew it.
Yeah.
I'm good at it.
I
You
know.
know what I'm saying? Like, and
I do.
I don't mean that in a self-righteous egotistical way.
No, no.
I spent a lot of time and effort and energy learning and doing.
Yeah.
So I was good at it, right? Am good at it. And so for God to call me to something that I know nothing about, no, I did not have training at the time. Of course, my first instinct is fear and
Of course.
resistance. Like, I don't know this,
Yeah. Yeah.
but I have to remember, like, if I show up with a yes, God will figure out the rest. And
Mhm.
he'll lead me to it. He'll lead me to the people, places, opportunities. Um, he'll lead me to it. And another one is Philippians 4:6. But do not be anxious about anything, and pray about everything. Bring every petition to God and pray about it. And that's exactly what I did.
Mhm.
So every time I was met with fear, every time that fear popped up, rebuke it. I know it's not from God, and then
Yep.
pray about it. What do I
Beautiful.
do, God? What's my next step? Where do I go? How am I going to make money? Where do you want me to learn?
Where do you want me to learn?
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. So what have you done to what so since stepping out, can you kind of give just a high level summary of what that has looked like for you in your entrepreneurial journey? Again, just like high level, and because I think the raw account is what folks like. If you and I can shine some light on maybe that unknown piece, it makes it a little less scary. So high level, like what does that look like since stepping out?
Um, the most personal growth I have ever experienced in my life.
Oh my gosh, same. 1000%.
Like therapy times 100.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like all of those years that I spent like being a disciplined student of business and learning and growing have been nothing compared to the amount I have grown in the last 10 months. I mean,
100%.
it's insane.
It I mean, the best in every way possible that it has grown me, stretched me, challenged me.
Yeah.
Um, it's yeah.
Yeah, same. It's been like for me part of the journey too has been challenging myself in ways I didn't even realize I needed
Yeah.
or wanted to grow. Like for instance, for me, I thought I had such a strong network and I
Mm,
do and I did in like that business community, and then stepping out into a different arena where I literally felt like I had no one. And
mhm.
so kind of got to this like back up against the gate where it was like, okay, well, if you don't know anyone, you're going to have to go out and actually find new community, like new.
Yeah.
And so that forced me then to go to different events. That forced me then to
Mhm.
spark different conversations. That forced me then to like create connection with other beautiful humans like you. Like I think about I just I I wasn't even playing in the same sandbox as you a year ago, and to think that now we're here, like that is the kind of stuff that is fueling my soul on it's more fulfilling than watching a budget number, that's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, 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 for sure. That has been the best part of it is like the networking and meeting and what this caused me, because so like in medicine I would go to conferences, but they were medical conferences, right?
Yeah,
So it was learning, but book learning. Well, I mean, different. It's so different.
so different.
The networking is different, whereas like the conferences that we go to now are like mind expansive, and networking with these people and learning different. Whereas medicine conferences is just medicine. You're in your medicine bubble. You're
Here's
just
your
right
textbook.
here, very closed-minded, but yet kind of open, but
Yeah.
open in the medicine, but closed in everything
You're
else.
you're in the box. You're
Yeah.
allowed to operate and think and expand in the box.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes. Whereas now we're meeting all kinds of different people, different coaches, different speakers, different realms of things. I'm even meeting people that are still in medicine that are now doing like it's wild. It's so crazy. Like it's so crazy. It's like it's heaven on earth, right?
Yeah.
Because it's God's showing you literally all the different kinds of things and how we all work together as the body of Christ.
Mhm.
Um, and it's just so exciting. And that's like another reason why I encourage people to lean into their gifting,
Yes.
because that's literally what God created us for. It was to
Mhm.
come down here on earth, other than to spread the good news and share the good news, but to connect us
Yep.
in our gifting. Everybody has a gift, a unique talent and ability. And if we all operate in that, then we are working together as we should. You know what I mean?
100%. Like those are our God-given gifts. And when similar to like how we were stepping out of the box to kind of go to a different conference, or it was out of the daily norm,
Mhm.
how that just allowed us to kind of start getting curious. I think that like since stepping out for me, it's created an opportunity where I could get curious even more so about the gifts I already knew I had.
Yeah.
And when I got curious about those gifts, the way that creativity has expanded, the way that oh my goodness, even though the way that I thought I knew business, how that has expanded tenfold. Those kind of things. So I love the way that you say that, like, you know, community connection, and also to the gifts and like that creativity.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So good. So good. I'm trying to think what else for someone who, because I'm spending the year really focused on shedding light on the power of quitting. And
Mm.
that's not just quitting our jobs. Like that is quitting anything that is not serving us. So like
Yeah.
quitting Quitting playing small, quitting busyness,
Yeah.
quitting complaining, quitting numbing, just quitting the things that are no longer serving us. So,
Yeah.
when I say that, like, what comes to mind for you?
Quitting the old patterns that I
Mm,
had. So, um, at first, right, when you said this,
yeah.
I'm gonna get real open and honest, real humble,
Give it,
open, and
girl. Let's
transparent.
go. Let's go. We're unjuggling this struggle.
Yeah, huh? So I'm on my third and final marriage. And when you're talking about, quitting,
Mhm.
uh, I think about all the times that I did quit, all the times that I did quit on my marriage, right?
Mm,
And how I'm not quitting this marriage, but I
okay.
am quitting my patterns
Oh, so
because,
good.
I had to shift the
So good.
quit.
Oh,
I
yeah.
was quitting the wrong thing.
Quitting the wrong thing.
Sometimes we are called to quit, but I was so wrapped up in whatever, the unhealing, the mess, my mess, and I quit the wrong thing.
Mm,
And so what I'm going to focus on quitting is the bad behavior, the
the old
wrong
pattern.
behavior, right? I'm quitting the behavior that no longer serves me anymore.
Yeah.
And ironically, it was me quitting.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was me quitting on the marriage, on the relationship,
Yep.
on myself, really. Like I
Yeah.
quit that and I walked away. So I'm not doing that this time. I'm
Well, and
quitting
I
the
think
right thing this time.
what you're saying too is like when we when we quit the wrong things, how often that just puts us right back where we were.
Mhm.
But when we quit the right things, how you mentioned earlier when you walked away, the first words liberating.
Mhm.
When we quit the right things, liberating.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm. Oh, I love it. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
That was so good. I love it.
Awesome.
All right, my friend. What else do we want to share with listeners today? I'm so grateful for this conversation. I'm so grateful that you were here.
Gosh. I just want to encourage you, whoever you are, um, that there's a purpose for your pain.
Oh yeah,
As hard as it is, if you're in the suck right now,
totally.
it's a season. And what I am doing, how I've shifted, is worshiping in it because God has me here for a reason. And
Yeah.
it's just a season, but there's a reason for it. And I'm going to worship him in it and love him in it and through it because he's going to walk me through it and he's going to be there with you in it and he'll be with you on the mountaintop when you're out of it.
Yep. And as I mean, so much of your messaging is turning that mess into a message.
Yeah.
And I think that you've done that beautifully here today, my friend.
Thank you.
So good. All right. So I am trying something new in this new year. A friend actually told me that another podcaster is doing this. And I was like, that sounds so much fun. So the last thing I want to kind of just touch on today is I want to ask you. Okay. Look, I know you're like anxious. You're like, we didn't plan for this. I know. That's what makes it amazing. Okay. I want you to leave a question for the next guest.
Oh, that's
So
rad.
yeah, so you have no idea who the next guest is.
Yeah.
Maybe I know, maybe I don't know. But
Yeah.
whatever question you want to throw out there, and then I'm going to ask. And you're my first guest of this year, so that's why you didn't get one. You just got my questions.
That's
But
so
you're
cool.
you're going to start this train for us, okay? So
Cool.
leave a question for the next podcast guest. And you have to do I have you answered or not? I don't know. Let's see. Okay, what's your
Okay.
question for the next podcast guest?
So, do you ask them in the beginning or the end of the podcast? You do that at the end?
Ooh, good question. I'm figuring this out Maybe
Okay.
I'll
Okay.
maybe
That's
I'll
all
do it
right.
at the
We'll
end.
roll with
I
it.
don't
We'll
know.
roll with it.
We'll
Okay.
roll with it.
So I'm going to ask them.
And it could be anything. I mean,
Yeah.
literally, it could be
Yeah.
like it could be like, how do you
I
put faith over fear? It could also be like, okay, what's your favorite jelly? I
No,
mean,
I'm gonna go a little bit kind of deep on it. Okay. What would you change about yesterday so that you could have shown up different or better?
Love that. Do you want to share your answer?
Oh, okay. Okay. And let me think about yesterday. What would I change about yesterday so that I would have shown up different or better?
I love that question, by the way. I'm thinking of an answer too. So I got like one that's like, yep, here I am. Something I would have changed about yesterday, because again, this is the struggle. Just I was so up in my head yesterday about I was sick earlier this week. And so I feel like every single day has just been constantly like trying to catch up with
Mm.
the priorities of the day before. And in very typical fashion, and I don't think I'm the only one, where it was like uh, just not granting myself any level of grace,
Hmm.
and how hard I was on myself. And so just I know yesterday I was sitting there beating myself up instead of granting myself grace. And I
Hmm.
know hands down it made it so much worse. I did not go to bed feeling great. I did not
Hmm.
go, was not happy, was not fulfilled, was sad, was not good. And I just knew that today was going to be different. I wanted something different today. I aligned my intentions with something different. I got to speak with you today, so it's,
Yeah.
it's beautiful. But yesterday, and so moving forward, like just that reminder of how important it is to give ourselves grace. I would have given myself more grace yesterday.
Yeah. I would have spoken to and been more intentional with my stepson yesterday.
Mm.
Because I have a part-time job and I had to work yesterday evening. And so when I picked him up from school, I came home and I was like, doot, 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 doot. Like I had to get these things ready to do and go and be and leave. And instead of like having eye contact with him and being a little more intentional, that's what I would have done different.
Yeah, you were in go mode,
Yeah.
not let me be present and
Yeah.
see you and be seen mode. And I think
Yeah.
that's so fair to your point. Like we're all just moving 100 miles an hour, that we
Yeah.
so often get into that space. And
Yeah.
so I love that. So I know you're going to do that differently today.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be so good. All right, my friend, this was wonderful. I so appreciate you.
Thank you, friend.
Absolutely loved having you on. Thank you for this.
Thank you. I loved it. I love unjuggling the struggle with you.
It's so good. All right, guys, until next time, bye.
Bye.
Hey, thanks for listening to today's episode. It means a world to me that you're here to ride in the struggle bus with me, and that you're willing to consider different perspectives, tools, and techniques that just might provide a little bit of relief and get you one step closer to the abundance that is available and waiting for us all. I hope you take a moment to grant yourself some grace where you've been denying it, some love where you didn't realize maybe it was right in front of you, and some faith where you thought all was lost. If this episode had an impact on you, would you please share a comment with a review? I'd love to hear what landed for you, and it helps us get the word out to our fellow struggle bus riders. So please review what was impactful for you. Just know these episodes are a pure labor of love in a space where I'm growing alongside you. I'm evolving every day, and I look forward to all the ways and the things and the perspectives and opinions and choices that will change over the course of time in my own life, day to day. Until next time, just know that you are loved, you are divinely cared for, and in the struggle, the journey of this life really is beautiful. I'm glad that we're in it together. Cheers.